Welcome to another episode of Earthworks Hub. Today I have a guest with me. His name is Sean Barry from Construct Personnel. Sean, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Ivan, for having me, mate. Pleasure to be here.
No worries, man. What do you think of the studio? I redesigned it a little bit, so you're the first person to actually come in and see it as it is now. What do you reckon?
It's awesome. Awesome to see all the people that all the businesses that you've dealt with too.
Yeah, so
Brilliant.
a lot of them are sponsors, and a lot of them are people that I've just dealt with over time and given me stuff to put in there. So it's good. I think it's good. A lot of people ask during my episodes, like, "What's that in the background? Show me your models. Show me this." So I think it just keeps it interesting as well.
Yeah, it's cool. No, it's really good.
That's it. So thank you. Thanks for coming in. Let's talk a bit about. Let's find out about yourself and the business. So you're from Construct Personnel. Tell us a bit about Construct. So what do you guys actually do?
Yeah. Okay. So Construct Personnel. Essentially, we're a labour hire company. So we've been around. The business has been around since 2001. So it went by a different name back then.
Okay.
And we rebranded. So it was called Larry's Labour Hire originally.
Yep.
Serviced a lot of local government, manufacturing environments and logistics and so on, and some trades areas. I came on board in 2016.
Yep.
And then through that process of coming on board, working with a business partner, we rebranded to Construct Personnel. So my business partner used to own Construct Traffic, which was quite a big business. So
yeah, I've seen them
obviously
around.
changing the name change is more about leverage, trying to leverage.
Yeah.
Probably a bit more descriptive to the work that we actually do.
Yep.
And then over that, what is now a 9-year period, we've just been growing exponentially year on year. And we work in the civil construction space, vertical construction, mechanical trades, warehousing, logistics, manufacturing, and it's an industry I've been in for 30 plus years.
Yep.
I love it. People reckon I'm mad because I love it, but
Yeah.
I do because there's challenges with it. But
Yeah.
But every business has challenges.
Well, that's true. That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah. And in earth moving, and I have many conversations with guys with businesses in earth moving, and they all say the same thing. Yeah, you got employees, machinery, customers. You got all these things, admin, taxation. There's heaps of things in the business. So
No, I'm blessed to be working to do what we do is just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant because I learn from people like everyone I meet, you included.
yeah,
I always learn something new. So learning about podcasts today, but a couple of days ago we were out on site learning about sewer pumps that go in 12 metre into the ground because we've got guys digging a hole for these sewer pumps to go in.
yeah,
And then you work out that all these different people putting the pump in, we've got people working for them. So all the way through the supply chain is one of our guys.
yeah,
It's
true.
pretty awesome.
That's it. So what type of workers and that do you employ? Like, is it full timers or casuals?
So
or
they're all typically casual.
Yeah.
And they're all typically people that are in between projects. So we target those people that have industry experience.
Yep.
That might be in between jobs or in between projects, and they're the people we target because as a labour hire business, people pay a premium in order to get someone who's got a set of skills that they can utilise on the job, and then know that person can do that job safely.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's good.
Oh, there you go, man. And so are you guys based just in Victoria, or do you
So no, we've got a Sydney operation now.
Yeah.
So we've just in the throes of completing a installation project up in a place called Revesby in Sydney. So that's mechanical installation. We've had on hired electrical supervisors, mechanical supervisors, safety coordinators, EWP operators, spotters, that type of thing.
Yep.
It's for a canning company, and this facility, they make 1 billion aluminium cans a year. It is ridiculous, mate. And they've got plants all over Australia doing the same thing. So we got to Sydney through the same company, did a plant in Dandenong for them.
Yep.
That plant went from, with the conversion, the work that we helped them with, they went from 1 billion cans a year to 1.2 billion cans a year. That's just out of Dandenong. So they repeat that 5 times around the country. Yeah. It's ridiculous, mate, how many aluminium cans, how many beers we're drinking.
I was just going to say
ridiculous.
That. Is it beers or is it Coke or Fanta? Or what is it? Yeah.
There's plenty of operators, I'm sure they're consuming lots of it and probably holding a can in their hand now going, yep, rightio.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I get that.
Yeah, no, I like the cans. I like the old cans. No, that's interesting because I met some of your construct guys on civil earthwork sites. So
Yeah.
when I used to operate for a few larger companies, they used to use your casuals to come on and do labouring for them.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to know you guys. But I didn't know that you actually do a lot more
Yeah.
than just earth moving and that. So
Yeah.
it's actually interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, probably 70% of what we do is earth moving related
Yeah.
or civil related. So we've got a lot of most of it's labourers. Out of that 70% is probably 15% are probably operators.
Yeah.
So we've got operators that are anywhere from bulk earthworks sitting on a machine just breaking rock all day.
Yep.
To guys that have got GPS, final trim, and guys that do trench work. So it's not an area where we supply operators and it's just just give me an operator and here we go, because we know there's different skill sets that are needed.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learnt in the last 8 years working in this space, mate. It's I knew nothing about civil until we fell into it, and then it's like, wow, this is just ridiculous what people can do with a machine.
Yeah.
And how accurate they can be with a machine. I'm going, well, how does that work when the bucket's 30 feet away from you,
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It is. And it's a non-stop learning curve. Even when I've been operating for, over 15 years, I'm still learning new things every day. And a lot of us on podcast episodes talk about that.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing type of thing. And I wanted to actually touch on that a bit after as well, like how you verify the operators can do what they say and stuff like that. But before we get there, how big is your reach? Like how many employees in that do you have? Or
so at the moment we'd be running 340 active employees on the system that are looking for work right now.
Wow.
Where it varies, the amount of guys working each day can vary.
Yeah.
It's just that that space, if you like. It's just. The industry for civil is quite quiet at the moment, so the volume drops away, and there's other times where the volume goes through the roof, so it does vary. And what we're seeing at the moment is there's a lot of people, as we know, the industry is quiet, but there's a lot of people out there chasing work, so it's trying to get through all the information we receive to try and find the right guys.
Yeah.
That's from my point of view.
Why do you reckon a lot of businesses actually go through like agencies like yourself instead of going direct?
I think they do it for a couple of reasons, and a lot of those reasons make pretty sound business sense to me. So the big corporates look at, there's something called Pareto's Law, which 80%, what they look at is 80% of your crew permanent, 20% casual, and then whether they casual through an agency or casual direct. And in that way, they can flex up and down with peaks and troughs. That's how some of the big corporates look at it.
Yeah.
So with most of the small to medium enterprises, which is where our focus clientele is, you're probably talking about guys that don't have the time to do the recruiting. You put an ad up now. We put an ad up a little while ago for a labourer. We've had 450 applicants inside 2 weeks. So you could imagine, as a small business owner, you put an ad up, you go, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to get time to go through this?
Yeah.
And how do I find the quality in it?
Yeah.
So by coming to a labour hire business like us, we're able to go through those resumes quite quickly and sort out who it is that we think has the relevant experience.
Yep.
Based on what they've put on their resume. Then we call those people and have a discussion with them about the work. So we understand because one of the keys for us is all the people in my team that are involved in recruiting has some form of trade background. So I'm a boilermaker by trade.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So I'm a boilermaker by trade, coming from a family of tradies. Brother's sheedy / TIG welder. Dad was a carpenter. Uncle was a sheedy. My father-in-law was a brickie. So I know through life they're enough to be dangerous in those fields,
Yeah.
But as you recruit for it, you get a better understanding for it. I didn't know much about civil, and now my young bloke, he's been working in the civil game for 7 years.
Okay.
So he started quite young.
Yep.
He's got all his tickets for dozers, all different machines and things like that. And it's we come from a family of tradies, mate. So, but what I've done is made a workplace it's my work family.
Yep.
And I've surrounded myself with people who have a trade background.
Yeah.
So that way, when we're talking to fellas like yourself, when you talk about a mud bucket or you talk about something, we've got a rough idea what it is.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell you how to dig a trench.
Yeah.
but I know there's benching required.
Yeah.
I know there's a fair bit of work that goes into it.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to do it because I'd probably hurt something or break something.
Yeah.
So we know enough to be able to get through to that space.
Yeah.
And then where we've got gaps in knowledge, we'd go and talk to our client, just like we're having a discussion. So, mate, tell me about this. How does this work?
Yeah.
You know, if they're doing benching, what does it involve? What should I be expected to hear when I ask a question about doing that type of work? You know, so it's from that perspective, it's and that's how we learn, and then we get better at it at that understanding of the work, and whether that's for an excavator operator, a labourer, a boiler maker, a fitter, a carpenter, Sparky. It's all the same. It's understanding the language that each one of those trades use.
Yeah.
That's the key to it.
Yeah, true.
But again, going back to your question about the businesses.
Yeah.
So I think, one, the HR aspect that they don't have, so they come to us.
Yeah.
Two, their ability to hire from us and try before you buy it.
Yeah,
So they a lot of my bigger clients, some of those are multinational or multi-state.
Yep.
So national companies, quite large. Yeah, we lose probably somewhere between 20 and 25 people a year to permanent employment directly to them.
Yeah.
So they'll take them on for a period of time through us, put them on permanent, take them across. Happy days.
Yeah, so they sort of use it as a bit of a trial thing, and then if that doesn't work out, I suppose it's easier to say, look, you know, we don't need this guy; he's not working out.
Yeah, that's it.
Whereas if they're full time already for the employer, they've got to go through the whole process.
Correct.
Yeah, so
correct. And I think in today's environment, where you've got to market the way that it is currently, people will utilise us because they haven't got the security of the ongoing work.
Yes.
So they'll go, how can I get somebody into my business, help me with this project, and then if I've got nothing for them to go to, how do I get rid of them?
Yeah.
So then they're not stuck with someone that they don't have work for.
Yep.
It sounds harsh, but that's the reality of the world. What we see in construction is everybody's transient. Everybody moves around from time to time, you know?
Yeah.
So, so that's sort of that's the benefit I think they get from using us.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. That's what I was sort of thinking as well. Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm an employer. So just say I'm either a small, guy that needs maybe 4 or 5 workers, or if I'm a large corporate company that needs heaps of workers. What's the process? So just say I want to get started out and hire someone. Like just say I need operators for my excavator. What do I do? How do I
Yeah, so
organise
what most people are going to do is jump online and see who does labour hire or who does recruitment.
Yeah.
A lot of people will know the recruitment industry and they talk about recruiters all the time. I hate the word.
Yeah.
I'm a labour hire business.
Yeah.
You're hiring people from me. I'm a labour hire business. We'll keep it nice and simple.
Yeah, yeah.
So what they do is they contact the labour hire provider. They would contact us either through the website, and we have an inquiries line there, or they call our phone number, which is 1300 labour, which is really simple. So 1300 522 687.
I like that.
Just for a plug. But it's. So they contact us via the phone and we have a chat. And then what we do is I often say to them, can I come out and have a look at the job?
Yeah.
Show me the job. And then if we see the job, it's easy to recruit for something we've seen.
Yeah.
But if people say to me, hey, Sean, I want you to recruit, just give me a price, and then I want you to supply a person to put solar panels on my roof, well, I don't know how tall the roof is.
Yeah.
I don't know what skills are involved to put the solar panels in. So that's why we go to the sites and talk to the guys. Yeah. And it's the same with the operators. It's understanding when you ring me and say, hey, how do I get an operator? I talk you through it and say, well, an operator's not an operator.
Yeah.
So you've got your guys that can do bulk earthworks and sit on a machine and just break rock all day and they're happy doing it.
Yeah.
And you've got other blokes who'll spin a gear if they've got to do that.
Yeah.
So they'll get out of it and say, nah, I want something more technical that's actually going to keep my brain active.
Yeah.
Not to insult those guys that like doing rock breaking.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, there's horses for courses.
Yeah. No, that's good because I suppose a lot of times you've got guys with small businesses that don't want to put someone on full time and they're probably not sure where to start and they don't want to go put an ad on Seek and search. So so the better option would be like you say.
Yeah, they come to us and I say to people, look. We send you a person guaranteed for 4 hours. If they're no good inside 4 hours, then there's no charge.
Yeah.
Just ring us up, take the person away from the site, and we move on. Has that happened to me in the last 8 years, 9 years? No.
Yeah.
So I think we're pretty good at getting it right. So, and that I know is symptomatic. And if I look at all the people we employ every day, we only have 1 or 2 people a day. And let's say we've got 100 so people out today, we would have had 1 or maybe 2 calls to say I'm not going to work, I'm sick. It's because we find people that want to work.
Yeah.
And so the reliability is a lot higher. Where some of my competitors, they don't understand the work that they're doing. They supply the people that have got a white card and they think they've got a machine card and they go, oh, yeah, I've been driving a dozer for all of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I can put them on as an operator and they're going to be fine on a dozer or an excavator. That's not how it works.
No.
So we look at people that have got 4,000, 5,000 hours worth of experience if we're putting them into an experienced operator's position.
Yeah.
If we've got someone with 1,000 hours, then we'll say to the client, if you're just doing bulk earthworks, this guy's got under a year's worth of experience. Is he going to be someone that can help you?
Yeah.
And then the client says yes or no. So we put it back. We work with them to make sure they understand what they're getting.
Yeah. And is there times where the client will say to you, like, look, it doesn't really matter if they've got this experience or that experience, or if they're a little bit less experienced, or do they always say, we just want the best guy straight away?
Well, most of them want brain surgeons straight off the bat.
Yeah.
So and I get it.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're just not out there because a lot of those guys are full-time employed.
Yeah.
And the ones that we can get are those guys that are in between the projects. So and that's why we've got to understand what's the work, So if they're going out to a landfill site, then you could put someone out with less experience.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty safe environment. They're not likely to break anything. But if you put them on a subdivision site and they're trenching, they're putting sewers through or they're putting water main in, it's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So we'll tell them these are the people that we've got. These are the people that are known to us. So what we do is we don't recruit for every position. We use the same people. So if you're registered with us, you go and work for client A over here. You're there for a few weeks, and then that assignment finishes. Then we look around and the client might ring up and say, listen, I need someone to do sewers for us, to dig some sewers or to do final trim in a wetland or whatever that looks like.
Yep.
And then we put you over there because we know you've got that skill and experience because, 1, we've heard the feedback from our client. 2, we've read your resume, we understand what's in it, and we've got to know how reliable you are as a person.
Yeah.
So then those guys that we have good relationships with, we keep using them all the time.
Yeah.
And there's young guys that come through that, and not just young guys, but there's people that have probably what I would suggest is not the behaviour for full-time employment.
Yeah.
So people make choices, especially young guys. Like I've had guys say to me, "Oh, it's my mate's 21st. I'm not going to work on Monday." And this is on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
It's like, mate, really? Your 21st would have been last night, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you'll get some people make bad decisions. And that's where you've just got to understand who it is that works for us and who it is that we can rely on and who we can put back out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's pretty easy to get to us. If people want to get to us, just straight to the website.
Yeah. That's it. And I'll put the links up to all that in the description as well to this video. So
fantastic.
If anyone is interested, definitely. And you can see contract personnel. There you go. I just want to ask a question about, so who goes and finds the actual workers for you? Do you have like recruitment consultants or how does it work?
Yeah, so the guys in the office that work for me, they're like what I call, area managers. So we'll put ads up on Seek.
Yep.
Indeed is another one. And we got a lot of at the moment, as we've gotten bigger, we're getting a lot of word of mouth. People saying, hey, call Construct for work.
Yep.
So people can go onto our website and apply for work on the website. But through Seek, traditionally, it's through Seek.
Yeah.
So we'll look at, how many operators we know we've got available, how many carpenters we have available, how many labourers we've got available, and we look at the work that's coming through that's planned to come through.
Yeah. And
then we'll advertise particularly for that area. And then depending on the time of year and the availability of resources, depends on how many people we recruit. So we typically get really busy, like most people, probably from August and through till probably February. We're pretty flat out, especially on the civil side of things.
Yeah.
While it's dry, it's great. When it rains, no good.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. On the flip side then, so if I'm an employee, like a guy that's looking to find work, how would I approach that? Do I come and see you guys? How would it work if I'm a guy looking to start operating, or
So
to work for someone?
yeah, so if you're talking about like someone who doesn't have experience or someone with experience,
Oh, someone with experience. Yeah, so
Yeah.
someone's looking for work. Yeah.
yeah. So if they're just looking for work, then it's the same. The word of mouth we find is getting stronger and stronger all the time because our brand is being recognised more and more.
Yeah.
So they'd be looking at Seek, they'd be looking at Indeed, and just applying through that.
Yeah.
And then we'd be going through all the resumes to work out who it is that we want to talk to and who it is we don't want to talk to. And unfortunately, you know, there's probably, I would say 90% of the applications we get are not the right people that we're looking for. So we'd go through all of those resumes to find, you know, maybe out of 100, maybe 10 resumes are good.
Yep.
Out of the 10, we'll probably get into a bit of detail on the resume, and then we'd probably ring 5. Out of the 5, we're probably likely to catch up with 1.
Yeah.
Because the timing of catching up with good operators is hard because, you know, the guys, what they're all doing, they all need to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So they're all running around talking to every labour hire company they can, and they're searching their own work.
Yeah.
So we've got to try and get them and get the timing right of getting them to register with us, getting them to work for us, somewhere in the middle there. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You know, I've had one guy who tried to start work for us for 2 years, and then I got him on a dozer and happy days.
Yeah.
You know, he was with us for 1.5 years.
So I suppose what they're doing is if they're looking for work and they need the money, they'll just put their name down at a few agencies and whoever's first.
And I say to them, the more sets of eyes you've got looking for work for you, the better. Because if we haven't got it, because we're a smaller labour hire than some of the big players, so we won't have all the work. Some of the other companies will have that work, and that's where they've got to go, you know. But I think where we're lucky is we pay the guys more than the award rate. Yeah. We don't quite pay EBA because I can't do EBA work because the unions won't give me an enterprise agreement.
Yep.
But when we do pay the guys, they get paid appropriately. We advertise at that rate too.
Yeah.
So, you know, we on balance, people will come and they'll go anyway in terms of as they're applying for work. Yeah, a lot of guys they'll come and work for us on non-union work. They'll get offered work on the tier 1 jobs, and then they'll leave to go do tier 1. And that makes 100% sense to me. Like, how can you hold someone back if they're going to make an extra $20 an hour in terms of what they're getting?
We used to see that, I used to see on site the labourers sometimes would turn up and it'd be a new guy there and you'd go, hang on, I haven't seen this guy before. And he'd say, oh, I'm only here for a few days, just in between waiting for something to reopen again or start up another project somewhere.
Yeah.
And so they're there. One thing I can say is a lot of times you can tell the difference when they're just there for basically not time wasting, but they're there just to fill in.
Yeah.
Compared to the guys that want to actually stay there, so they're like really putting in, working hard.
Yeah, that's
staying
it.
back.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because they used to hate the guys that come on site that are just waiting and filling in because like they're not as careful, they don't care as much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember that you could see the difference.
Well, there's some people that I look at and I go, they work in a particular environment and they've never worked outside of it. And I look at the private small companies and small to medium sized businesses, they're not going to fit. Yeah. Because they're not planning to be there long term. So when a client says to me, hey, I want an operator, I want a labourer, and I want someone that we can rely on that's going to be here long term and for the rest of the project, I'm not putting someone on it who's looking over his shoulder for the next job to come through. Yeah. So I'm looking at the guys that I know that are going to stick with that, because there are a lot of people out there that they don't do that type of work, and then so they're happy to sit on it, Yeah. So the preference for me goes to those guys that I know that are going to turn up all the time.
I like how you're saying that you actually filter through the people and make a good decision and you qualify them and see who's going to fit best for
Not
that
always.
job.
We don't always get it right.
Yeah, I know.
Mate, we've have some monumental mistakes, but but 90% of the time we get it right, and that's because I think because we are ex-tradies. Yeah. When we're talking to guys, it's like having a conversation in the pub, Yeah. And I say to people all the time, when you're interviewing these guys, it's the pub test. If you bump into someone and you can't have a 2-second conversation with that person to say, sorry, mate, didn't mean to bump into you, and they reflect that back to you, then that person's not going to work on a job site.
That's true.
Because they can't hold a conversation.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
So we there's obviously a bit more to it than that, but that's, so it's good.
It's funny you say that because My wife, when I used to interview guys to come and work for me, she used to say, like, how'd they go? And I used to say to my wife, I can pick up on how they're going to be within the first 2 seconds. Like you say, the first 20-second conversation we have, if he's not responding or just like not looking at me in the eyes or this and that, I can sort of pick up on things. And you're right. Yeah. You can pick up. So if you're hiring someone or about to, interviewing an applicant, you can probably tell straight away what they're like. Yeah.
Yeah. And the blokes on the ground,
mate,
they see it better than I do.
Yeah.
They know. If someone walks in the door and they're not the right fit, they know.
Yeah, that's true.
And we get calls, going, mate,
who's this guy? Yeah.
Who's this guy? Yeah. But we're lucky for us, it doesn't happen too often, but it does happen sometimes. Sometimes we get it wrong because people interview really, really well.
Yeah, true. That's true.
And then they're not that good an employee.
Yeah. Well, I've made that mistake. Even when I was working in my previous work life, I'd hire some people, during the interview, they knew everything, knew all the things we spoke about, really, really good. Yep. I put them on the job and I think, hang on a second, who's this person? That's not the same person I interviewed. It's just... They've got no idea, but they know what to say. So they've studied before the interview. They know exactly what to say, but they can't actually do the job,
I've had people say to me, mate, I'm the best operator you've seen. And seriously, they've said that.
Yeah.
And every time when people they're too overconfident, I go, now listen, every single person that's told me that story have always turned out shit.
Yes.
So don't tell me that because you're setting a bar up here.
Yeah.
And if you don't work out, you see ya.
It's true. And
that's what people do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, some people think that they've got to oversell themselves, which is probably not good.
They don't need to.
No.
Just talk through relax, explain to people what you've actually done.
Yeah.
And as people with the experience, we're going to know whether they're full of shit or not. We're going to know if they're lying. We're going to know if they're telling the truth. It's pretty easy to see it.
Yeah, and I've been told as well. As I was going up through the ranks in a management role, they used to say to me that they loved that I knew my self limitations. Like I'd be aware of what I couldn't do, and they'd be like, "At least you're aware of it. You're not over egotistical about things and trying to do prove yourself prove that you know more than you do." They'd say like it's good if you say, for example, operator wise, that I can do dig trenches and that, or I can load trucks, but I can't do detail work, then that's fine. As long as you tell the person, they can work with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I find the best operators we've had over the journey are humble.
Yeah.
They're blokes that they just go, mate, I can do it.
Yeah.
No, they might pull their phone out and go, here's some of the work I've done.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they do that, I go, wow, okay, this guy's really proud of what he does.
Yeah.
So that's a keeper to me.
Yeah, well, that's right. Someone that's proud of their work and records it and actually looks back at it, that's a good sign. Yeah, you're right.
And as an employee, if your people are going home and they're proud of their environment and proud of what they've achieved, that's perfect,
Yeah.
They're coming to work for the next 5 years.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I used to love it when we used to go back to the yard sometimes and the workers will come back and they'll start talking about their day and they'll be going, oh, you should see the way I cut this basement today. I cut it, 45-degree angle, beautiful. All the batters came out awesome. And they start talking about things and they're proud about their work. And that used to make me feel good. Like, all right, that's good. They actually, and I used to have customers that would ring me and say, hey, this guy is really good. Like, he went above and beyond and like leveled everything off. Perfect. So I want that guy back again.
So that's it. So when we're recruiting, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that person that's got a bit of heart in the work that they do. They care about what they're doing, and they just want to work.
Yeah.
And that's the key to it. It's actually listening more than talking.
That's true. That's true. So I've noticed that I keep saying, referring to operators and labourers and that as males. So I keep saying, oh, the boys are boys. How is it with females? Are you finding that there's an increase of female operators and labourers? So
I reckon in our database is probably we've gone from probably 3 or 4% women on the database. Right now there's probably more like 15, 20%.
Yeah.
A lot of the women that we register are in spotting roles, traffic roles, Moxie operation, some labouring roles, we get them in. Machine roles, some of them. There's a lot of women coming back from the mines that have got all their tickets in machines. The hard part I find with people coming back from the mines is because they've been involved in production work, whether you're male or female, it's not civil work. Yeah. So when we talk to people that are ex-mines, I'll say to them, so did you do the haul roads? Did you manage the haul roads? Who did the haul roads? Who managed the actual civil stuff on site?
Yeah.
And now they'll often say, "No, mate, I'm sitting in a 100-ton excavator and I'm dumping into the back of a truck." I'll go, "Well, that's probably not going to suit us."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you're digging a little concrete slab behind the house somewhere.
Yeah, if you're doing a site cut in a local subdivision, mate, it's probably not going to work.
That's right. Yeah. So it's not all the same, like you're saying.
Correct, and that's about us understanding the environment. So those boys that have got the mine background, and boys and girls, we can use them for bulk earthworks. But that's what we've got to know. We've got to know what is it they're doing, these people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the clients love about and why we're like our top 5 clients spend a lot of money with us. They've been using the same top 5's been similar for the last few years. They use us because the quality of the supply is exactly the same every day, day in, day out.
Yeah.
Because we care.
Yeah.
And the people, it's understanding that environment. And I think, the more women we get in, the more diverse I can make, the working population that works for me, the better, because it's good to have all sorts of people in it. But there are situations where, you can only put certain people in certain holes. As they say, square pegs, round holes don't fit.
That's right.
So you've got to find the right job for the right people.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we've got a number of women who working as labourers, and they work out really, really well.
Awesome.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to, we were talking about employers before, and that, what does your business actually cover? So if I'm hiring a worker, how does it work? So you send me an invoice for the time that the worker worked, and then what about all the pay stuff for the
So
workers
we pay to the conditions of the award.
Yeah.
So everybody gets an hourly rate based on the award. They get the casual loading based on the award. They get overtime based on the award. They get their super paid. They get their long co-invest or leave plus gets paid. They get all the statutory requirements paid. So we cover the work cover. So if someone gets injured, we cover that. Yeah. We do our best we can to get them light duties and to work with them to get them back to work if that occurs. But we cover everything. So we cover everything legally. So that's there. Good. But it's just sad when you do come across some employers and you wonder how they're doing pricing some jobs, or you wonder how some labour hire companies are operating. And when I break their numbers apart, I go, they're losing money. And then I find out someone's getting paid less than they should be getting paid.
Yes.
You go, okay, well, that explains it.
Yeah. There's always something. Yeah. Yeah.
There's always something, So I've seen a lot of that lately out of Sydney, not so much Melbourne, but more so out of Sydney.
Yeah.
So Sydney seems to be a bit of a different market where people are getting away with it,
Yeah.
But I don't play that game. At the end of the day, I want to be in business for a long time, not a short time.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and I think we do the right things. The client sees that we do the right things. The employees see that we do the right things, and when that happens, there's no negative feedback.
Yeah.
Very, very few. We get a couple of complaints every year. There's not many. So, but the ones that we do get, the old Google review.
Yeah.
The old keyboard warriors get on there.
Yeah.
I think, we're doing pretty well from that perspective, but at the same time we get people, and I look at the names and look at a lot, and they've never even worked for us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
But on the whole, we do everything above board. Yeah. So if we're working in the local government industry, which we do, so a big chunk of our business is working for councils.
Yep.
So we've got garbos, road maintenance guys doing potholes and repairs, footpath inspectors. We've got technical services people.
Yeah.
So we've got all sorts of people working local government. So we do everything. You have to work in that space. You got to do everything above board.
Yeah.
So we do that right across the board. So it's good fun.
No, that's it. So you mentioned before that, you like guys or operators that show you like some work they've done. How does social media help you guys? Do you actually look at their social media profiles and see like what else they've done and maybe to verify?
Yeah, we do. It's it's not a rabbit hole that we run down too often.
Yeah.
But what we will do is if we've got a sniff that something's not quite right, I'll go and look at a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Or I'll go and look them up on their social media. And, there's a while ago, I chuckled to myself. There was a guy, couldn't quite put my finger on what was wrong.
Yeah.
Going to his Facebook page, and here's Jimi Hendrix poster in the background. There's all these flags with marijuanas over it. His bong's in the background. He's going, Yeah, nah.
Yeah, we've worked it out. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what the issue is.
Yeah.
So it's the hard part with that is if it's just bongs, mate, no
Yeah,
dramas. It's the
yeah.
ice and the other drugs that are a bigger issue.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
So
they're bigger things now.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. So we do look at social media. You know, where obviously we try to drive a fair bit of traffic through our social media. We're growing that all the time. Where part of my learning is to understand about that more. Like I'm a bit of a caveman when it comes to social media. I go on it once or twice a week, if that.
Yeah.
I don't rely on it, but I know it's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And I know that we if I look at my kids, my wife, everybody's on social media looking at their phones all the time, and it's like, yeah, okay,
yeah, and
that's the way the world's moving. So it is out there. We do vet some of their profiles if we're not sure on somebody. We don't do it for everyone. Because you can go down a rabbit hole big time on that.
It's true, yeah. I had to ask because I do that. I Facebook stalk people. If someone especially when I used to hire someone, and I did the same thing as you. I'd look at their profile picture, I look at their background, and I'm looking at some of the things they post, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be a weekend party goer. That means every Monday is going to be off. Every Friday they're going to ask to go early. Yeah. And there's it actually affects your decision a bit.
It does. Yeah. And I think it's a really good tool for small business owners to do that.
Yeah.
Because you may not be as versed, like you might not be as good as recruiting and interviewing people because you're not doing it every day.
Yeah.
So you're looking for pieces of information from this person to make sure you make the right hire. Because if you get it wrong, good luck sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be pretty ugly. And I've seen that a lot, and it's because people don't take the time. So I think when you look at somebody's social media posts, if it's nothing but party central, you got to think about the person's age. You got to think about what they're doing, and then I'd ask them that question in an interview. Even if you have a second interview or a third interview, bring them back until you're comfortable to make the decision.
True. Yeah. Don't just
Yeah. And if what you see is in front of you, and then you look at the social media and it's completely different, query them about that.
Yeah.
Ask the question about that.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good.
What we're looking for in that process is, why would I not employ this person? Why would I employ this person?
Yeah.
And that's the mistake a lot of people make. Oh, he's a gun operator. But it's like a footballer in a team. They can be a gun footballer, but they're a shit team player.
That's right.
Affects the whole team, brings the team down.
Yes.
So what we're looking for is the person that's the right fit from our perspective for that job.
So that probably brings me to the next question. So what are some of the red flags? So if I'm a guy that's just applied for a job with you guys, and then you've sent me out to a job, so what are some of the red flags? What are the things not to do that you recommend for a person going out and starting a new job? What are the things not to do, or some things that employers have called you back for and said, hey, we don't like this new guy?
Yeah, I think where you get it wrong, you get those phone calls.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do through the process is to get it right most of the time. So when we to get it right, to find the right people, it's not 100% certain every time you do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you think that somebody like with a HR degree or any other person on the planet can get it right 100% of the time, you're wrong. So what we're looking for, what I'd be looking for those people, if you're, if I'm looking for someone to come and work for me, I'm looking for consistency in their employment. When I say consistency in employment, it doesn't, gone are the days when my dad used to say, you know what, he's only worked there for 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Where it's not, the kids, like in my generation, so I'm Gen X, so I'm going to have 13 jobs through my lifetime. My kids, Gen Y and millennials or whatever it is, they're going to have 33. So when we look at their job, you want to see that they've got consistent employment with their jobs.
Yes.
You want to have an explanation as to if they're only working 2 or 3 months at a time, and that's over a 4-year period, why are they doing that? What are they working in? Are they working on projects that are finishing up in that period of time? Or are they just the sort of person that can get a start in that job, and then people work out that they're a party animal and they're not reliable, and they get rid of them after 3 months?
Yeah.
So they're the things that you're looking for, and then the questions related to that would be, why is it you've left that job? What we're looking for is why would I not employ him, not why would I employ him?
Yeah.
Because the resume's already told you why you would employ him, because it's got tickets on it, it's got information about where they've been, you're interested in talking to them. Now what you've got to look for is why would I not employ him?
Yeah.
So if an employee, to go back the other side of that question for an employee, then an employee would be wanting to make sure he's communicating or she's communicating where they've been working, how long they've been doing that job, and if they're to use keep coming back to operators, using an operator, or even a local government, so a side loader, a Garbo, you're running a side loader.
Yeah.
What we're looking for is how long has that person been operating that machine for as a side loader operator? How many councils have they worked for over a period of time? Where did they get the experience? Is it with a subcontractor? Is it with the council? And if they've moved around, ask the questions. Why did you move around? What happened? Look for breaks in employment. And then you'll hear what you've got to listen for is the tone changes in their voices.
Yeah.
Because when someone's lying, they're going to pause.
Yeah.
Their tone of voice will change a little bit. So you've got to listen to what the person's saying. So as Dad said to me, one of these, two of these, use them in that order.
Yeah.
So if we're hearing and we're listening to what they're saying, then we can get closer to finding the right person. But sometimes you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That happens.
And what advice would you give to, just say you've a new labourer that's turned up on the site? What advice would you give that person to make sure that they make themselves stay on that job? Like, what would be, things?
Number one, reliability.
Yeah.
2 is their communication. So in their communication, make sure that they're asking questions. If they don't know something, don't be the hero that says, "Oh, yep, she'll be right," and you know nothing about what you're doing. Ask questions.
Yeah.
People like to teach, and foremen, leading hands like to know the person they're asking to do something is confident that they can do that job.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, say something for young guys, and be a sponge. Ask questions. The more questions you ask, the more likely someone's going to go, actually, this person cares about the work that they're doing and they're interested in the work they're doing,
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that have said to me that what they did when they got onto a site as a labourer and they wanted to become an operator, they just kept saying, can I jump on a machine at lunchtime? Can I move the machine?
Yeah.
Can I practice this? Can I do that?
Yeah.
And providing they've got a ticket to do it, then we should allow that to happen because the kids have got to learn. And one of the things I see in our industry is we're not training the kids enough.
Yes.
We all sit back. We want the perfect operator. We want all of this. Sometimes you need to grab good guys that are at the lower levels, and they're either labourers who want to be an operator, and actually give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
Whether that's doing some stockpile work or whatever that looks like,
Yeah, that seems to be the hardest thing, that bridging that gap, because we don't have really like an apprenticeship system. We don't really have like a traineeship system. So it's all about just trying to, poor operators, but guys that want to operate, the only thing they can do is just try and learn on their own, in their own hours. And it's not something that can easily be achieved. And for business owners like myself, it's difficult to put someone on and give them a go because they're going to be slowing the job down. If you're working on hourly rates for someone, that customer's going to go, no, that guy's too slow. I want you back in the machine. Yeah. So it makes it hard. It makes it hard to do that.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But what we've got to do as an employer is stop looking at the money.
Yes.
And start thinking about the long-term effects of actually bringing new people into our industry. When I look at, so in our local government work, there's particular skill sets we've got to find when we're supplying to that area. And what we're doing now, so with some of the side loader operators, the Garbos, they're hard to find, those guys, because there's not many people that have sat in a side loader and can pick up 1,200 bins a day or 1,400 bins a day.
Yeah.
So there's a skill that's involved in that. But what some of the councils we're working with are doing now is they're actually putting them inside, having a driver next to them as they're going around, and they're trying to teach them. And they're finding that's actually becoming more and more successful because those guys are getting trained and then they're staying longer in those positions.
Yeah.
Because they've been trained in the way that client wants to do the work. And it's the same with the operators. If you're getting, labour hire, the best way to use labour hire, I think, is to bring the labour hire guys in, say, to labourers level, take your labourer that's working for you and put him into a machine because he's familiar with your guys, he's familiar with the machines. Give him more time, maybe not just bring operators in directly from us, but give your guys the opportunity to learn a new machine or learn a new skill set they never had.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you backfill their role. Then you haven't got a gap in that, so that productivity doesn't get lost. That's sort of what I think people should be doing. But anyway,
yeah, no, I agree. Well said. That's what we always say. Like, it's good if you can get someone. And advice I give to anyone that wants to start operating is always try and get like a labourer's role somewhere where you're around machinery and you actually get to see what the machine's doing, why he's over there, spot for the machine, so you know that once you're in that seat, you know what's expected as well. So
yeah, that's right.
That's what we always say. So you're right. Yeah, building them up from that is probably the best. Best option.
It's the best culture because then they're safe all the way through it.
Yeah.
And we're not dragging other people's problems into our business.
Yeah, true. What about training services? Do you guys offer any training, or do
no? Unfortunately, we don't. No. So part of the difficulty for us, I've worked with different other companies in my past because I've been doing this for 30 years. So with those organisations, when we've tried it, it sort of works against what we're trying to do. We're trying to hire out a person that has a particular set of skills, and the client wants to pay a premium for those set of skills for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So to bring people in to train them up like apprentices, at the moment, for us, for the size of business we are, it's difficult to do that. But I think, what I look at is our clients are paying us to get people in that can do certain work. Like, I'd love to give kids an opportunity, but it's the reality is I can't hire that person to a client because I say to a client, hey, I've got a young person who's really keen to get into civil, has no skills, got a white card, and they go, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Where our concern is predominantly safety, awareness of their environment, they're not going to have it. And we actually want someone who knows that if I say I want to set up, clean out a pit, set up help set up stormwater, lay conduit, I want to know that I can put that person on a job and they're going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the difficulty. But again, I would encourage any of the smaller operators, bring the kids in, give them a chance, because those kids, even if they don't work out for you, they'll get better when they go and work for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for us, we don't provide that initial training formally. Yeah. I'd like to down the track.
Yeah.
I'd love to have apprentices.
There you go.
So yeah, I'd love to get to a position one day when we've got actual full-time employees working on sites.
Yeah.
But when we get bigger and our clients say to us, hey, this is what we're looking for, well, that might be something we can do.
Yeah, that's it. You grow with it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. So one of the projects in Sydney, actually, we had, there was 5 guys permanently employed by us to do that job on hired to that client. So we put them on contracts.
That's good.
So yeah, it was good. So they had regular work for 14 months. So it was good.
Yeah. All right. Tell me about when the periods slow down, like for example now. How are you finding this current climate? Is it affecting the business? Are you seeing...
Yeah, we've slowed down considerably. So what I found with the slowdown, especially on the civil side of things, it seems the developers are really holding up the land development.
Yeah.
So they've land banked. They're sitting on it. They're waiting. My understanding is they're waiting for the rates to drop, and so their forecast of sales will increase. Once the forecast of sales will increase, civil will come back out of the ground again.
Yeah.
And I think the governments are under a fair bit of pressure to try and get civil moving again, because I think I heard today that 20,000 houses they missed their construction budget by. So the only way I can see that you're going to build that many houses is to open up more land.
Yeah.
So what we find in this environment where it's quiet, we're diversifying more. We're pushing more into the local government space, pushing more into supplying trade services, maintenance services into manufacturing, pushing into warehousing logistics, so forklift drivers, pick packers. So I think when things slow down the way they are, you've got to look at your business and say, what can I diversify into?
Yeah.
And then try and work into that pack. But it's difficult. Like a couple of mates of mine who've got machines not working at the moment, and they're doing it pretty tough.
Yeah.
So it's a hard slog.
It is, yeah. And we talk about it week in, week out with my podcast and my live sessions.
Yeah.
It's the same boat. It seems some states might be a little bit better. Like they say Queensland's very busy.
Queensland, South Australia.
Yeah, South Australia. Everyone says they're busy.
Sydney's not as bad as Victoria.
Yeah, so there is probably some differences, but still not as busy as usual, yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing, some of those mid-sized companies that we work with that would be, they probably turn over $400-500 million a year. They're pushing into South Australia a lot more.
Yeah.
They're pushing into Queensland a fair bit. The Sydney market, they've said to me, is a bit harder to crack because it's just a different sort of market.
Yeah.
But in the work that we're doing in Sydney at the moment, there's lots of work going on. There is heaps of work going on in Sydney, but it's all underway. So the contract's already there.
Yeah.
They tell me that it's slowing a little bit, but it's nowhere near as bad as what Victoria is at this point in time.
Yeah.
So hopefully once the federal election's out of the way, things start to pick back up. Because I think in my 30 years, every federal election, it slows down just before it.
It does. It does. Yeah. It's and that's Wednesday in May, so it's not
3rd of
actually
May.
not very
Another
far
couple of
away.
weeks.
So yeah, I've noticed a lot of councils are starting to fire up and do some work, especially in my area here. There's every park in the area has suddenly been refurbished and all this. So I always know that's another thing that happens too before financial year. They start using their budget, and you can see it. I was talking to a guy this morning. I went for a walk, and he pulled up and he said, "What are you doing? What are they doing here?" And I said, "I think they're making another park." And he goes, "Like, how come suddenly all these parks are popping up?" And I said, "They must be trying to use their budget, you know."
Yeah.
So I suppose that's another thing. You got election time in this sort of financial year period, and then you got councils and they're trying to use budgets, and I think it's, if, like you say, if the rates come down, developers start developing again, then you've got that period of when people are going to start, they've got to release that land, people have to buy it, and then the civil companies come in. So it's probably still going to be
but I think talking to some of the people that I talk to, there's a number of the projects. Let's hypothetically, they've got 10 projects that they're waiting on. Of the 10, some of the permits are already everything's sitting there waiting to go on some of them, probably about 30%. So there's some projects that'll kick off pretty quick.
Okay.
But there's the other pieces of land that they've got to wait for that stuff to come. You're probably talking 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's going to try and push it through as quick as we can. I think you're going to see the state government putting pressure once the rates start to come down. I reckon the state government will put pressure on the councils to release those permits quicker.
Yeah.
So you're starting to hear that this week on the mainstream news.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of pressure coming in terms of trying to get everything moving a bit quicker than what it was. So once we see what the damage that Trump does with his tariffs as to how that affects, who knows?
Yeah.
But if you're in the export business, you're probably in trouble. I'm tipping.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff happening, and then even all this stuff with China and America, and I think it's going to affect us as well. Yeah, as much as we think we're not really that involved in it, well, we are. Yeah, we are. Yeah. And it's going to affect.
But I think there's some benefit to that, Ivan,
Yeah.
because I reckon from what I heard during the week was we're going to be impacted by this global tariff war or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's going to be a need to invest in other areas of the economy. So that what I heard this week was that's going to drive into cheaper housing, like as in interest rates will come down on housing.
Yeah.
That has a flow-on effect for civil. So there's going to be some benefits. We won't see it straight away, but I don't think it's all negative. I think there is some benefits coming.
Yeah.
But it's the hard part is the negativity we see through social media and the negativity we see through general media.
Yeah.
Mainstream media, I should say. It's these guys are making money by making everything sound worse than what it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
let's hope that what does happen is that they open up more parcels of land. They're going to have to invest in projects to get things going. How the Victorian government does that with no money, who knows?
Yeah, and you're right about the negativity, especially with social media, because if you look at one article on something negative, for some reason, and we all know how it works anyway, the social media just keeps pumping you with negative articles related to the same thing.
That's the way their algorithms work.
The algorithm, and you can easily get caught up in thinking, man, the world's gone nuts.
Yeah.
And it keeps, like, I looked at something the other day about the end of the world, like things are, there's been an atmospheric pressure drop, so and all the tsunamis and earthquakes happening, something's changing. And now it just keeps feeding me that all the time. And it's actually got me sometimes thinking, wow, maybe something is happening, but I don't know. Yeah, it's
That's why I stay away from social media because their
Yeah.
algorithms are designed to do that.
Just keep
If you
feeding.
you go look for one negative story, it'll feed that to you because their algorithm said, "I'll just keep pumping it in because that's what they want to see."
Yeah.
And it's just crap. It's like reality TV, but that's a different.
Yeah, that's another.
That's that's another podcast.
That's another podcast. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously you enjoy what you do. If you couldn't do this job, what else would you be doing?
Wow.
Any other job, or maybe like a childhood dream job. What would you have been doing?
You know what I'd like to do? Sounds stupid. Only part-time job, couple of hours a day. I wouldn't mind working in a kindergarten
Really?
where the kids are, say, between the age of, 3 and 5.
Yeah.
I remember when my kids were growing up, that was the best age because they learn so much and they're so funny, you know.
Yeah, true.
And they just bleed, like they just suck information from it. They learn so quickly, and it's like I love little kids, mate.
Yeah.
I'd probably want to see that because then you see how they grow and in that period of time because kids could change a lot in 3 months, 4 months.
And that's where things used to be simple.
Yeah.
Not a care in the world about the world ending and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. It makes sense because my daughter's she's just started doing some daycare work, and her age group they've given her between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
And she loves it. And she goes, "Oh, the biggest their biggest problem for the day is who's going to be their best friend for the day." And they grab her by the hand, they walk her around, and she loves that. Yeah, just back to simplicity.
Yeah, and you know what? There's no judgment in that space.
Yeah, yeah.
They haven't gotten old enough to work out how to criticise someone.
Yeah.
There's no nothing. You know, it's good. That's the only thing I could think of that I'd probably do.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty lucky because I enjoy going to sites and seeing different things. I've seen some amazing things in what we do. Like I watched them used to look after Toyota, watch them build a body of a car.
Yeah.
In 7 minutes. Robots put it all together, you know, putting all the panel work together.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. You know, I went to Coca-Cola a few months ago. Yeah, they can 164 cans of Coke in 30 seconds around this wheel, and not one drop of Coke comes out of those cans when they can it. And then you watch it spin around so fast, and there's no Coke getting spilled whatsoever. And I go, how does that happen? How do you do that?
Yeah.
They go, well, we actually put carbon dioxide in the bottom of the can. It sucks the fluid down. It keeps it all there. And I go, that's ridiculous. But, you know, like the other day, earlier I said about the guys in the subdivision at Rockbank, you know, it was near Rockbank, putting the pump in 12 metres into the ground for the sewer because they've obviously got to move the sewer somewhere out because it's such a flat area. And then I realised that, you know, we've got an electrician working on it, hooking the pump up. We had a guy digging a hole for another company. And then later on, you've got guys working on the subdivision, laying the sewer pipe and all the infrastructure around the subdivision.
Yeah.
And you just go, that's just crazy. We've had a hand in
everything.
all different parts. And who would have thought I'd be talking about sewers?
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But it's amazing, you know.
Yeah,
like it's pretty cool. And that's where I'm lucky to do what we do.
Yeah.
It's as you can tell, I get a bit passionate about it. But you know, all the negatives, having people that are problem children come and try to work for us, and there's some people out there that I've got some stories I could tell, but I won't do it in public.
No.
But it's pretty interesting, mate.
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
Speaking of kindergartens, sometimes the workplace can be a bit like that.
Yep. Yeah, there's certainly had those experiences.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, it's about how I think my resilience comes from just going, yep, all right, that it is what it is.
Yeah.
How do I best deal with it?
That's it.
What do I need to learn to deal with the situation? Learn it, deal with it, and then move on. Don't hang on to stuff for very long. So, but yeah, it's good. Like it's a good game.
Yeah. So what's the outlook? So just say for the next 5 years, what's the outlook for your company? What do you
I think that over the next 5 years, I can sort of see, you know, there's as we diversify a little bit away from construction a bit more, we start to push into local government, start to push into manufacturing, push into warehousing, logistics. I can sort of see the business growing to, you know, probably 11 or 12 people from the current 5, and then going. I don't want to become a big multinational. Like I want to have a branch network structured throughout Australia where we can add value to that market.
Yep.
And I want to have a business, you know, that we might grow to, 1,000 employees or something like that in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that diversity, those opportunities will come. It's just about working with the right clientele, working with the right employees to help drive our brand, and then that growth will come. And I think the market we're in today, it's not here forever. It's only here for a few months. We've already been in it for a couple of months. It's going to turn around because we know this stuff is cyclic.
Yeah.
It's not going to be this way forever. So what we've got to do is just keep working through that process, and everybody's in the same boat. So, but I think, with what we're doing with local government, the investment we're putting into that, I can see already some real benefits to that. The manufacturing space, I can see how we're growing into that space, like the canning facility we worked for, having, we got up to 22 guys working there at one point. So we'll just do those types of projects, keep building it up, keep supplying the maintenance fitters, keep supplying forklift drivers, keep supplying all of those guys, the garbos, the road maintenance guys, and just grow it. And if we get our supply right, if we get our quality right, we'll grow pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because people just want a good service at the end of the day. And I think that's what we offer.
Yeah.
Good. So the next 5 years is looking pretty good. So yeah, again, right now it's tough.
Yeah.
But we've all just got to work through it.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's good. Well said. Sounds like a good plan, and it sounds achievable. With what you're doing and what you're saying the company does and all that, it's good. And the drive that you've got, you can see it'll work. Yeah. So I wish you luck with that too.
Yeah. Thanks, Ivan. Thanks,
What? Anything you want to add? Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
No, just that I think, for the small guys out there, when you're doing your recruiting, just as a small tip, recruit as though you're recruiting for your family.
Yeah,
is probably how I'd look at it. If you wouldn't bring someone into your family, why would you bring them into the workplace where you're spending 8 hours a day?
Yeah.
So the other part to that is when you get these guys on and you've got employees, learn that performance management's not a dirty word.
Yeah.
It's a word that you need to have as a business owner, that you need to be able to do some simple things to manage your employees. So because one of the things that I often get asked by people is, how do I manage this person? How do I manage that person? And the simplest way to do it is to just write it all down. You got a mobile phone, you got a note section in it. When somebody's late every day, record that they're late. If someone tells you, their foreman tells you they're late, record that they're late. And then talk to that person about them being late, or talk to that person about taking days off.
Yeah.
And then that constitute a verbal warning if it needs to be a verbal warning. And then what you do is you follow that up with an email, say, hey, as per our discussion, here's a list of all those things that I spoke about.
Yeah.
So please make sure we change our behaviour so that we're not having this discussion again.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they do it again, you can go back over that. And then what happens if you issue a formal warning, a second warning, then those people will leave voluntarily. They're not hard to get out of the business because most people will leave.
Yeah.
If they don't leave, then give them a third warning, which is not a third warning. It's actually, can be a third warning, depends on your policy.
Yeah.
And then move those people on.
Yeah.
Because your best people are looking at you as to how you manage those people.
Yeah.
And if you don't manage the weak links in your organisation properly, your good people are going to get the shits and they're going to move.
Yeah.
Because they won't put up with it.
Yeah, because I'll be saying, how come they get away with it and I don't? And they can become like that.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And the key is productivity. If we're not all productive, then, your productivity drops off. You've quoted a job, your time frame blows out, your costs blow out, and then everybody's in the shit.
Yeah.
So, you got to manage those situations. So if I was to say to anyone, work on performance management, don't let it be a dirty word. It's actually okay.
Yeah.
But manage your people properly, And if they get stuck and they need short-term labour requirements, and give us a call. We're happy to supply.
That's it. That's it.
I'm happy to give advice too, if people want it. But there are good employment lawyers out there. You just got to listen to them.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest weaknesses for a business these days is they don't manage those areas that well.
Yeah, and keeping a paper trail on that is very important, because you can always use that and say, hey, listen, on this date we said this, on that date we said that.
Yeah, and all it is, people think, I've got to have a diary, I've got to do. Just go to your mobile phone and have a note for that person and just write it all down.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a paragraph. It's just got to be, Sean was late today. 13th to the 10th, 1955, whatever date it was. came in at 8:30, should have been here at 7:00. You know,
Yeah.
a simple note like that. And what happens when you see that all the time, you'll go, hang on, I have spoken to this guy a lot.
Yeah.
And hang on, he has been late regularly, so I need to talk to this person
Yeah.
about that. And I think that's where small business owners fall down because they're so busy with everything else, they forget the main thing their main thing that they should be worried about is their people.
Yeah. I think the other thing a lot of us talk about is that you let things go because you can't be bothered trying to rehire someone and start all
Yeah.
again. So a lot of us just let it go and go, oh, we'll just give them another chance. Don't worry. I can't be bothered looking for someone else. Because my wife used to be like that. Just get rid of them. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But then I've got to start all again. And then it might take me another, 6 months to teach this person again. And then you go, I'll just let it go. And then it can become like a bad habit and it becomes like a bad egg. And it just keeps
100%. 100%. And we see it all the time. It's something that employers, especially small business owners, no one's trained them on how to manage staff. They've just learnt from their bosses.
That's true.
So if their bosses have had bad habits, guess who's got the bad habits? It's going to be me.
Yeah.
So, you've got to talk to your peers and say to people, how did you manage that situation? How did you manage this, And I've got plenty of mates who have paid out people just to say, see you later.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be expensive. You've just got to understand that performance stuff, make a little note, raise it, talk to them.
Yeah.
It's something that I think is critical if you're running the business. And that's, when you're not sure, again, look at your options. If you can afford to, then use labour hire to find those people. I'm working for a couple of companies now doing perm placements because they've said to me, can you find me full-time staff? I don't want to use labour hire. So we provide full-time staff.
Yeah.
So we're recruiting specifically to their role, So, and they're at their fields that are not civil construction. But yet, like I said before, one of our clients, we lose 20 to 25 people a year to permanent employment.
Yeah.
So look at the options. If you haven't got time, find someone who has got the time.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's really good advice about performance management because it's a big thing. Your
it's
employees
massive.
are your biggest asset, but if they're not performing, then they're not really a good asset. And it takes more than just being too nice with them and that. You got to actually sometimes be the boss.
They're employees, mate. They're not mates.
That's it.
But I say they're work family.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I'm committed to the people who work for me, and I'm committed to making them having better career options when they leave my employment, make them better people from a work perspective, but they're not my family.
Yeah.
And it's my work family is different to my real family.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, there you go.
That's
All
it.
right. Well, I think
Thank you.
No, I'm really, really happy with today's session. You got nothing else to ask? No? There you go. All right.
Pretty happy. So if you need labour hire, give me a call, 1300-522-687.
Yeah, that's it. And then are you guys on social media and that too? Or?
We are. We're through LinkedIn. We're on Facebook, Instagram. So most of those. I don't know if we're on TikTok. I'd have to ask the admin person who runs all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're pushing all of that. We're obviously the website's there as well, so we're happy to talk to anyone and everyone.
All right.
So, but yeah, mate, I appreciate your time.
No worries. And same, vice versa.
Yeah.
Sean Barry from Construct Personnel, thank you very much for coming in today. To all the people that are watching, all the viewers, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you share the shit out of this. I always say that to everyone. Share the crap out of it. This will be posted up on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. So on all the podcast platforms, but also look out for us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the other stuff as well. We do heaps and heaps of stuff. If you want any information, go to www.earthworkshub.com.au. So the website has links to all the social platforms. You've got business directories on there. You've got jobs, vacancies, people looking for work. There's events, all sorts of stuff. So just go to the website, Earthworks Hub. And to all my sponsors, you'll see a list of sponsors in the description. So, make sure you use all the discount codes. Some of them have discount codes for their products. So go in and use those codes. That's what it's there for. And thank you to all my sponsors again. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you, Sean.
No worries. Thank you.